And I want us to start to refocus our attention on the American people and stop demonizing every daggone person that ends up in custody of ICE, because they are not necessarily.
What happens when members of Congress are accused of simply doing their oversight job? In a fiery hearing, Jasmine Crockett defended Representative LaMonica McIver, accused the Trump administration of turning immigration into political theater, and argued that constitutional oversight, not intimidation, is what's at stake.
Yield to the gentle lady from the great state of Texas, the ranking member of the subcommittee, Ms. Crockett.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. And Mr. Hauser, thank you so much for your service. I do want to make sure that we are clear on your credentials, because you actually have them. I have that you were the Assistant Director of Legislative Affairs at Homeland Security, correct?
At one time, yes, ma'am, about 15 years ago.
You were Deputy Chief of Staff at Homeland as well?
Yes, ma'am.
You served as a Senior Advisor to the Commission as Homeland's Custom and Border Protections?
Yes, ma'am.
As well as you recently served as the Chief of Staff for ICE?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you've done a few things.
I'm also a combat veteran. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, well, thank you for your service in all ways. Here, listen, I have a series of issues of what's going on, because I will say that the Republicans were right. Democrats lost on immigration. When you look at all the polling, when you talk to people, they lost on immigration. And frankly, I am concerned that we did not have conversations that went beyond just talking about the humanity, because there are people that literally don't care about humanity, which is why we are able to have this administration doing the things that they're doing. Talking about the fact that border crossings are down 95%, well, I don't know if I can trust that number or not. You know why? Because first of all, they've been going out, they've been firing all of the persons that usually deal with data, science, and facts all over in all agencies, in addition to the fact that even if that is a real number, we don't know if they got to that number just because, well, this is a lawless administration that is consistently in violation of people's constitutional rights, the Constitution in and of itself, court orders. So we can't really explain exactly why and how, even if that is true. And at some point in time, you have to say there is a balancing test. Either we are going to follow the law fully, or we're not at all. And frankly, what I've seen out of this administration is that they don't want to follow the law. But there is something that you said in your opening remarks that really stuck with me. There was a line that I wrote down. You said, line cooks and landscapers. Now, I have talked to those that are in construction. I have talked to those that are farmers. I have talked to a lot of people that have said that because of the reckless acts of so many of these ICE agents, they can't even get their workers to show up to work because of what they're doing. Now, you correct me if I'm wrong. As somebody that practiced criminal law, I never saw that we needed ICE to go and arrest somebody, say, for murder. Is ICE the only agency that has the authority to arrest somebody, say, if they go out and commit murder?
No, ma'am, they're not. But
what about aggravated robbery?
No, ma'am.
What about rape?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so in fact, 9 times out of 10, the primary arresting agency when it comes to, say, committing a crime such as aggravated robbery, rape, murder, would that be ICE? Would that be the primary arresting and investigatory agency to do that in the first place?
No, ma'am.
Okay. All right, so I just wanted to make sure I was on the right page, because I get a little confused sometimes when we're around here. Now, we have talked about a lot of the kind of back and forth between the branches. And this idea of checks and balances seems to escape certain folk in the chamber. And so I really want to ask you just a couple of questions to make sure I'm not the one that has lost my marbles. Who has the right to conduct oversight? Or let me ask you this way. Does Congress have the power to conduct federal oversight over detention facilities?
Yes, ma'am, and quite frankly, a bit of confusion that I've been hearing today. Oversight by Congress is, of course, mandated by law, but additionally, oversight also, not only in the immigration space, protects the migrants, but also protects law enforcement and through public safety in making sure they have the resources they need. In my position, over 15 years at the department, I oversaw hundreds of visits by congressional members, advocacy groups, immigration groups, law enforcement groups, and in no way did I ever see the sort of situation that we saw in Delaney Hall, where there was a powder keg driven by the political theater being driven by the White House.
That's exactly right. And that's actually why I wanted to make sure I talked about the fact that you had credentials and you've actually been in this space. That was not normal. And the idea that they would somehow say that it's their colleagues that were the ones that were driving it, which is why I made sure that I showed video footage of Representative McIver very calmly telling them why she was there. And frankly, it is sad that we do have to go through this kind of political theater because, listen, we all know what it is. That's why they hired everybody from Fox News, because all they trying to do is put on for a show. This is not the Apprentice show. This is supposed to be about the American people, and I want us to start to refocus our attention on the American people and stop demonizing every daggone person that ends up in custody of ICE, because they are not necessarily demons just because ICE decided to round them up. So thank you for your testimony.
Can I answer that question?
No. The gentle lady yields back.
Representative Jasmine Crockett delivered a forceful defense of Congress's oversight role while criticizing the Trump administration's immigration policies. Rather than focusing solely on border statistics, Crockett argued that the larger issue is whether the federal government is operating within the Constitution and respecting the rule of law. She began by acknowledging that immigration has been a difficult political issue for Democrats, noting that public polling showed concerns among voters. But she argued that the debate should not stop at political messaging. Instead, she questioned whether the administration's reported drop in border crossings could be separated from what she described as aggressive enforcement tactics and alleged violations of constitutional rights and court orders. Crockett then shifted the discussion toward the economic impact of immigration enforcement. She pointed to conversations with farmers, construction companies, and other employers who, she said, are struggling because workers are afraid to report to their jobs due to ICE operations. Her argument was that immigration enforcement should not unnecessarily disrupt industries that rely on labor while also respecting legal protections. She also questioned the narrative that ICE is the primary agency responsible for addressing violent crime. Through a series of questions, she established that crimes such as murder, rape, and aggravated robbery are typically investigated and prosecuted by state and local law enforcement, not ICE. Her point was that immigration enforcement and criminal law enforcement serve different purposes and should not be conflated. The hearing then turned to congressional oversight. Crockett asked whether Congress has the legal authority to inspect federal detention facilities, receiving confirmation from the witness that it does. The witness, drawing on years of experience at the Department of Homeland Security and ICE, testified that congressional visits have long been a normal part of federal oversight and help ensure accountability while protecting both detainees and law enforcement personnel. Building on that testimony, Crockett defended Representative LaMonica McIver's visit to an ICE detention facility, arguing that it fell within Congress's oversight responsibilities. She rejected claims that the lawmakers were responsible for escalating tensions and instead accused the administration of creating unnecessary political conflict around a routine oversight function. She concluded by urging lawmakers to focus on the people affected by immigration policy rather than treating every person in ICE custody as a criminal. Her message was that effective immigration policy must balance border security, constitutional protections, and congressional accountability. Whether viewers agree or disagree with Crockett's conclusions, the exchange highlighted a broader debate over immigration enforcement, the limits of executive power, and Congress's constitutional responsibility to oversee federal agencies.